The Highway Life, based on a true story.
Coming along?
Mom said not to be taking a ride from no strangers.
This is the bus to the Highway Life.
I'm Bolo. Bolo Big.
I'm Joey Smalls. It's about to go down.
The good news is it works. We put the board down, screw it from underneath, put a washer, works great. But guess who forgot to put tape on the bottom? Yours truly. So I left the tape off last night on purpose in case we had to do additional cuts, which we did. But then I still forgot to put the tape on the bottom. Take it right to your edge. You gotta do two.
Time after time.
He's stupid.
You're gonna have it up.
I'll hold it up, that way you can bring it down. Oh shit, I will like. Oh no, that's good, that's good, that's good, that's good. I think, yeah, we're good. We're good, we're good, we're good, we're good. How many people actually know the words of this song? Good? If it doesn't work, I can just cut it off there. I think it actually.
Where's the extension for?
Can you still see the line?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do the same thing. Start here. I don't know if you need to, but I'm moving inwards. Okay.
Remember the 240 pounds of muscle?
Alright guys, so what George is doing is he's standing up top, standing on the middle of the board. What is it, 240? 240 pounds of muscle to hold the board down. Just so there's no bowing. And I'm getting all dirt in my face. I'm down, brother. You know I love fishing. Well, I love cooking out, trying to fish. This shit is working out really well, guys.
We're not gonna have a drill bit. It's gonna go through with enough ass.
Well, we can try it right here, right?
Try right here.
Just to see. It's not that thick of a channel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm through already.
Yeah, we're good.
So we'll just go in between, right?
Yeah.
We're alternated?
Yeah.
Now, I don't know about the how far enough from the wheel well. So these three, we are going to come up from the bottom. The wheel well is in the way on the sides. So those we're going to come up from up top. So it is what it is.
Yeah.
You see where you're at right now?
Yeah?
Go over to your far side 4.5 inches.
You measuring?
That's gonna put me in a channel.
Put it on the same channel as the boat and just go towards the back about an inch.
Good?
And you can do on the other side,
Same thing.
same exact thing. You can go 4.5.
Alright guys, we've pre-marked where it needs to sit. So we are exactly the same distance from this board to the board in the back. squared. That way we know where to put the middle one.
Right.
All the way, right?
Yeah. I'm good with it.
I'm gonna go for the bottom. We good?
Yep.
Alright, we're good.
Alright. Yeah, this shit's solid, dude.
Alright guys, unfortunately 4 of the screws with 2 on each side, we're gonna have to go from the top. Just couldn't avoid it. What we're doing right now is counter sinking it so that the screw sits flush. Self-tapping. Does it clear the screw?
Yeah.
Don't make fun of my canopy, boy.
Hold on. Too high.
Motherfucker.
It comes loose.
You want the rigid?
Yeah, man. I'll
It's been a long day working with my friend. Yeah. Thank you, George and Cindy and the girls, and I'm forever grateful for that family, man. No bull jiggity. They left. It's been a long day. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I only had a short period of time with George to have him. So we were knocking out things as fast as we could. Josh showed up, Freedom showed up, helped us out a little bit. Did I just burp on camera? Sorry guys, I just had my lunch, dinner, and breakfast all at the same time. I didn't talk throughout the video much, so hopefully by the time I edit this, I'll add some captions and try to maybe talk my way through it. Let's go inside to the HwyLIFE Resort. Housekeeping. You want a pillow? Your pillow's fluff? Alright, I turned on the light, so hopefully the camera has good pictures, good video. Got my back piece in. I got all my pieces in, guys. No real struggles except for 2 spots. The gas tank, which is here, we had to go through the top. The gas tank, which ends here, had to go through the top. This is the only piece that was not able to fasten down, but we did pre-drill it from underneath because I ran out of thermal tape. My most important piece, again, is down. The side rails are in. Excuse me for the light. This side is in. This side is in. Ran out of screws. But this is going to be easy. I should be able to do that by myself next week. Actually, I should be able to do it tomorrow. I just got to go pick up some screws. But I won't be able to do that until the additional thermal tape comes in. My 2x4, which runs the entire length, I believe it was 15 and a half, I think, is placed just underneath the window. There's a rail there, a very thin rail. I did not attach it to that, but I sat right next underneath it because I need to be able to get a razor to cut my caulking to bring the window out should I ever have an issue. The stud to the 2x4 are fastened in only on the metal ribs, which also has thermal tape. One up top, one on the bottom. Wood to metal screws. I believe we used 2 3/4 or 2 1/2, but it didn't pierce our side, obviously. Same thing with this piece. It goes all the way down, only touching the ribs. This particular one didn't have a back metal, and if you actually look,
I am just above it. I wouldn't say a hairline, but I didn't want that touching metal. I place my footers, then I can put another board for the last piece. So the last 2x3, 2x4, 2x4 actually sits out further than the metal. So when it's spray foam, when it's shaved down, that is additional thermal break. Then I'll put my my panel wall up. Utility room here, I will address also this week, because I want to hang my panel first, my electrical panel, before I set it off to get insulation. What I'm doing right now is just using my chop saw with my 2x4s, and I'm cutting them so I can make footers, but I can put it against the wall for that to finish that off. Now typically you don't put your studs and then you run in the middle. You would typically put the runner at the back, and then your studs will back up to it. Again, I wanted to utilize the rail and go from side to side. And these here are more for, well, it is for support, but it's also so that I have material surface to drill down and screw down my plywood. I'm gonna have to cut a notch in this so I can push it back further, and then I'll just drill it through the side so that I can anchor it down to the runners. But I'm also gonna come up from underneath, but not as many. Now I'm gonna make the rest of those, the rest of these, and then figure out what the hell I'm gonna do in the middle. My footers for along the wall are cut. I didn't cut it all the way. I cut it down to size, and left myself about 1/4 inch, only because I like shaving it down with the chop saws line by line, just in case I have some flexion or bowing in the wood. My 2x6 are fastened down. I don't want to pull them. I know they are straight, I know they are squared, so I don't want to pull them when I drill my 2x4s into them, from the front and the back. Yeah, always leave 1/4 inch for to factor in for an error. Place it, eye it, measure it. At least that's the way I do things. In areas like this where there's a beam rail, I will have to cut out a notch, a peg, so that I can push it back to be lined up and squared. I'm going to take advantage of what these rails sit on. There are stands underneath, so I figured I need something to go in the middle. I might as well sit it where the stands are at. So underneath here where this rail is, if you remember that stand, they have it all the way down on each rail, so I'm gonna take advantage of that. And this 2x6, I've cut it to size. Those are where the these rails were attached to. I will fasten it down once I get them screws. The reason why I wanted to have that section there is because I need something to attach to when I put in my trim and stuff, and obviously because I needed it for my to help hold a partition for the rear, and probably be where my wood goes attached to for when I do the bed. It's nice and strong. Again, I am not going directly on the rail. The least amount of wood that touches metal will prevent thermal transfer, limit thermal transfer. I am choosing to go to the left on all of mine, so that I will always know that I am left to this when I'm drilling through with my screws for the plyboard. The one in the rear, however, I always need one at the end to cap everything off. And then obviously I have one right here. This one, it would not make sense for me to put on the left because of all that distance. So what I'm probably going to do is just split the two and remark my window to show where my stud is. When I get my screws, I'm going to drill diagonally from here into my wood, and same thing on top. I'm not a huge fan of using an L bracket for this application because it's not as strong as actual screw going into wood to wood.
There will be times where you absolutely have to use an L bracket just because the application requires for it and what you're limited to. I just find that going from wood to wood with the screw, it's just stronger. I'm now cutting out my notch so that I could place it back and clear the rail. When the 2x4 gets notched and pushed back, I'm gonna go as far as back as I can, but I also have to keep in mind that I need surface so that my plywood can be drilled down to. Now the wood itself is 3.5 inches wide, even though it's a 2x4. Remember the hole, they take off a half. I want to probably do at least 1.5 inches, so that when my board goes down, I have enough good surface to drill down. I've already notched how wide my notch needs to be. If you guys have never used a angle square, it's got some pretty cool features. Since I can't draw that, if I'm limited to my tools, since I don't want to guess where that line is and I can't really use it to get into the middle, they have a really cool feature here, these little pivot notches. If you go to your 1.5 where I want to be, all you have to do is go across that little notch there. If you put your pen or pencil, preferably pencil, you can hold tight and just guide it. You'll have yourself a nice, quick, easy line. For my footer, from here to there, I will be using a 2x3. It's gonna do nothing but hold my wall panel. I don't have a 2x3 to show you, so I'm gonna use a 2x4 because it's the same thickness. So when I run my bottom rail, when it's longer, I need to compensate for the thickness. I need to compensate for the thickness. I need to compensate for the thickness of the wood, so I still have my 1.5 inch that I've marked. Does that make sense? So that's where my placement of my 2x, that is my placement. I'll do that all the way around the entire bus. Spray foam, shave it down. My plyboard will go down right up to the back and sit on that 1.5 inch that I've given it. And then once my wall goes up, it'll just go into these studs, these rails, and the stud. The bottom section would not get a stud. I'm not hanging anything from it. I wanted these studs not just for structure and strength, but I may be hanging things or attaching things to that, especially near the front area where my couch will be. I finally get to show you guys what I do with my baby sledgehammer. This piece that I'm getting ready to lay down, these screws, these bolts that I installed previously, it won't let my wood lay flat. So what I do to counter that is place my wood like I would. And then I lay another block on top of it. And all I'm doing is just tapping it. I use this other piece of wood so I don't damage my current wood. It'll leave behind these marks. And what I'm gonna do with that, it's small enough that I can just use my counter sink drill bit. If not, you can go to a bigger drill bit, and you just want to get some of that wood out. And that should do it. I'm gonna do the rest of these, and that'll help it lay flat. You guys don't need to see me screw all this down, so that pretty much addresses framing 101. I'll continue to frame and I'll continue to screw down everything, but you guys don't need to see all that. I'll attack the areas I addressed in the video, the compartments and such. I'll show you at a later time on the next, maybe the next video, and then I'll be waiting for installation.
They say home is where the heart is, but I say home is where my schoolie parks.
Oh, and thanks for watching.